Last night, the NBA's biggest trade domino fell when Giannis Antetokounmpo was traded away from the Milwaukee Bucks to the Miami Heat. Now, Miami lands both Giannis and Bobby Portis pairing up with Bam Adebayo, while Milwaukee receives Tyler Herro, Kel'el Ware, Jaime Jaquez, Kasparas Jakucionis, and multiple first-round draft picks. So we're talking a little bit about that. Plus, we're not done. Ayo Dosunmu got a $112 million contract, and we're hearing more trade rumblings as Jaylen Brown on the market. And there we're going to see a bidding war for Jaylen Brown. We're talking about all these things plus more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball and NBA related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into it for today, y'all. Before that, I want to thank you guys. I asked you guys yesterday about renaming the podcast. It will officially be relaunched as the Full Court Podcast starting probably after the draft. We're going to make it through this week, and probably next week you'll start seeing the branding redone and stuff like that. But it's always weird to change the name of a channel because you wonder like how that's going to affect people knowing it's you when after you change the name. But since you guys voted on it, I feel very confident about it. Make sure you guys also hit that subscribe button as we're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers by the start of the 2026-27 season. And we can only do that with you guys. About 64% of you guys are not subscribed to the channel that watches every day. So you're here, hit that subscribe button. With that said, the NBA trade season officially kicked off yesterday when at first it was a Julius Randle trade that sent him to the Brooklyn Nets. And then shortly thereafter, we got the announcement, the one that we've been waiting for, that Giannis Antetokounmpo would officially be going to the Miami Heat. So did the Miami Heat win this trade? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the reasons why they won this trade. One, they acquired an MVP-level star without trading Bam Adebayo. And really, yes, they gave up a lot of first-round assets in regards to it, but Jaime Jaquez, a perfectly fine player, but 25 years old. Kel'el Ware is a player that did have a lot of promise, but he seemed to fall out of favor with head coach Erik Spoelstra. And then it came out that Jakucionis was the last-minute add. That's what they had to throw in, which they wanted to try to keep him, but they weren't able to. They did keep Nikola Jovic as well, which could be rerouted in another trade possibly. But then you also get Bobby Portis in this one as well, who provides rebounding, he provides toughness, he provides shooting. And, now Erik Spoelstra gains two players that have been on championship teams before, and that's basically what the Miami Heat have done for years, right? Be a place where superstars can come or stars can come in and kind of revamp themselves, and also to sign quality vet players and see what they can turn into. Now, there is going to be a byproduct of this we'll talk about a little bit here in a second, but now they did not have to sacrifice, huge, made like another star, right? But I do think now that the chance to win a championship, which they're hoping that that's going to do, that this is going to open up that window. It's worth sacrificing future draft assets for it. But the side of this that we have to talk about is, did Miami pay too much? Tyler Herro is a really good perimeter scorer and shooter, and a guy that, now he goes to his hometown in Milwaukee. He's going to be very, very well, motivated there. Kel'el Ware could become a very good two-way center, right? He could be. He didn't catch on here in Miami, but going over to Milwaukee, a place where he is going to be able to learn through the fire, make his mistakes, stuff like that, where Erik Spoelstra didn't really have that runway for him here. There's that part of it. Jaime Jaquez and Jakucionis are both, on cost-controlled contracts. Jaime Jaquez was in the Sixth Man of the Year consideration, and Jakucionis is coming off his rookie year where he still shot the ball, I think, 40% from three, which that's where a lot of people were concerned. Was he going to be able to shoot the three? And then, of course, with Giannis's health and having to sign him to a contract extension, there are long-term risks involved in that one, right? But I think they paid the price to get a superstar. And can Giannis and Bam work together is at the forefront of the conversation. I think they could perform one of the best paint defensive units. Bam can switch. Giannis can switch. They both protect the rim. They both defend in space as well. Their transition attack is also going to be really good. And Bam's passing, I think, is going to complement what Giannis likes to do. Erik Spoelstra is going to be able to stagger some of their minutes if they want to, stuff like that, right? But there's going to be some spacing concerns here, right? Neither demands respect from the three-point range, and they lost their best three-point shooter in Tyler Herro. Playoff defenses are going to pack the paint against them, so they're going to have to try to find some shooting, and they traded away their best pull-up shooter in Tyler Herro, and now their late-game half-court creation is going to be a bit of a concern, which was already a concern, and they desperately need reliable guards and shooters, and the question is, can they find those guys. And one of the byproducts of this trade could be, and it's rumored that they aren't going to be able to maintain Norman Powell, that Norman Powell is going to be a casualty of this, and he's going to be moving on. And now we heard that like Detroit, other teams could be interested. He makes sense for those teams. Now, if Miami's smart, they can still try to get a sign and trade to get some type of assets back for Norman Powell and not lose him for nothing, which is exactly what I would try to do if I'm Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra. I'm not trying to lose Norman Powell for nothing because he had a really good season for you last year, but it just does not seem like that runway is going to be realistic for them to be able to keep Norman Powell on that team. So you have to also factor that in as a byproduct with this team. Now, what they do have their mid-level exception that they can use, and they can offer, I think, a $19 million contract, but that's probably not going to be enough for Norman Powell. So, at the end of the day now is that the Miami Heat, unless they look at this and say, hey, we can go over the salary cap and the luxury tax to keep Norman Powell, and we're willing to do that because we feel like we're trying to go for a championship. But the reality of it is that Norman Powell is likely to be a casualty for this one. And that's just real. That's just the real part of it. So, if that ends up, like I said, that has to be something that you also have to factor into the value of this trade, is that it took away your chance to keep Norman Powell. But, one could say that it's still worth it for this team, depending on how they figure out the rest of their roster. But they're gonna have to go bargain bin shopping for some of these free agents, and that's just something that they have to do, right? So, that's a sign of this. But then let's look at the Milwaukee side of all this. Did Milwaukee choose the right package, right? Was Miami's package better or was Boston's offer better? I think when you look at the Miami package is that, listen, you got pick number 13, which it's a lottery pick in a very deep draft. It's better than what you would have got in future drafts. So now you have 10 and 13, and those could be two players that could end up both being stars if you draft right? Kel'el Ware is a legitimate, and he has legitimate front court upside as well. And you get 4 players on manageable contracts that you could flip Jaime Jaquez to a team that wants to win now and needs some bench scoring. You can flip Tyler Herro, even though he's from Milwaukee, to a team that needs some shooting as well, right? The unprotected picks in 2031 and 2033 could become extremely valuable too, depending on what happens with Giannis and what happens with the Miami Heat over the next 5 years. So that's a thing that could, right? But this package does allow Milwaukee to fully reset. But Boston's offer came down to Jaylen Brown. And Jaylen Brown is the best singular player you're going to get in all this. Now, the question that comes is that Milwaukee would have been right back in the same position with Jaylen. They would have had to turn around and try to immediately flip him, right? Even though there's expected to be a market there. But I think, Milwaukee just didn't want to put themselves in that position in a what if and have to deal with that when they could start clean and get a lottery pick in this draft. And so it comes down to this. Would you rather rebuild with 8 assets or begin with a proven NBA All-Star that you're probably going to have to move off of anyway? And that's the question that you have to come down here. And now I think with Tyler Herro, it's a question on what's going to happen long-term with Tyler Herro. He seems genuinely excited to go back and play for his hometown team. You need proven shooting just there. You need everything there, right? And I would say this, Tyler Herro still has some upside, right? He's still in the prime of his career. But you have to ask yourself the question on the business side of this. Do you have to turn around and trade him immediately? He's entering the final year of his contract at $33 million. Are you going to, what is his timeline and how does that mesh with the rebuild that you're going through? And that's a question that they're going to have to answer and ask, and we'll see what the result of that's going to be. But let's move on to the team that did not get Giannis, and that's Boston. So now Jaylen Brown, there's a question around what's going to happen with Jaylen Brown realistically with this Boston Celtics team. And, there are some that said that a bidding war could start. This comes from Brian Windhorst in regards to this. It says this: the Boston Celtics offered Jaylen Brown to the Bucks for Giannis Antetokounmpo in trade talks. With the Bucks trading Antetokounmpo to the Miami Heat, the Celtics now have to deal with some fallout with Brown. Boston and Brown could be looking to go their separate ways, and that could lead to a big return from the Celtics. What I expect to happen is a bidding war for Jaylen Brown. In the most recent days, team have been preparing for this eventuality, that it wouldn't be the Boston Celtics who won the Giannis sweepstakes, and there would be a Jaylen Brown market. I think it'll take time to play out, but if there's a draft pick involved, it could happen today. So we could see Jaylen Brown turn around and flipped immediately or moved in this draft and see what the Boston Celtics do in regards to that. Now, if I'm the Boston Celtics, though, I'm looking to repair the relationship. He came off one of his best individual seasons. He's proven to be a champion and a finals MVP. And, even he seemed to deal with it pretty well. He joked about going to play over in China and being done with the NBA on a stream afterwards. But I think overall, I think that they're going to work itself out because I still think they're better together and they'll figure it out at least in the short term. In the long term, though, hey, You never know what's going to happen in regards to this. But Tatum and Brown, they remain an elite pairing together. Why break up that pairing unless, again, you try to break it up for a former MVP? I guess I can understand, but why break it up now? Because you're definitely not getting anything better that's out there on the market now. All right, with that said, let's move off of this whole nonsense and trade stuff. Let's talk about Ayo Dosunmu from Chicago. Shout out to my boy Ayo, who got a 5-year, $112 million contract to return to the Minnesota Timberwolves. He did get a 5th-year player option in regards to that too, so shout out to him for that. This works out to be $22.5 million, roughly roughly That's annual average value on that. So is Ayo Dosunmu worth that investment? There's been some reaction that the Minnesota Timberwolves may have overpaid a little bit for Ayo Dosunmu. I think that he's already shown himself to be a fit next to Anthony Edwards. That was without a training camp, which now that you have a training camp to incorporate those guys more, I think you have to do that. Anthony Edwards is also reportedly already frustrated and wants them to do something with the roster. Losing out on another good player could have alienated that relationship even further, and you definitely don't want that if you can avoid it, right? And so now Ayo Dosunmu is sitting in a place where now he's going to have an opportunity to show, long-term what he's going to be for this Minnesota Timberwolves team. And, for what it's worth, like, Ayo has always been a player that's flashed a lot. For Minnesota last year, 14.5 points per game, only on 10 shots, 52% shooting from the field, 41% shooting from three. He's, by the way, a 38% career three-point shooter. And now there's some talk like, could Ayo Dosunmu legitimately win the starting point guard role? Maybe, right? You traded Julius Randle specifically to retain Ayo Dosunmu, and he performed well for you during the postseason. So, yeah, it covers the prime years of his career, and that's always where the sweet spot is, right? Now, more than $22 million annually is for a complimentary guard is a significant pay, right? But we've seen it done. Alex Caruso, for example, I think he's $18 million. I do think he has not proven yet himself consistently in the playoffs, and that's because he was on the Chicago Bulls, who were trash during his tenure there. And you already gave up some assets to get him, which Rob Dillingham, and it's not that bad of assets, right? The 5th-year option does also benefit the player more than it does the team. But I think the Minnesota Timberwolves are paying for fit more than they're playing for star-level production, and that's perfectly fine. I think that they secured a really good asset that pairs good with Anthony Edwards, and that's what you want. Keep your stars happy. Next up, though, Trey Young got a $212 million deal after declining his $49 million player option. Was this a right move for the Washington Wizards? We know that Trey is a really good offensive engine. He's a really solid playmaker. The shooting comes and goes with that in regards to it, but the Wizards are looking at this as somebody who can provide stability for their team. He can create and accelerate the development of hopefully the number 1 overall pick coming into this one. I think his shooting creates space and opportunity for the young core there, and it retains an all-star caliber player without exceeding the crazy terms, right? Now, in the case that they paid too much, is that his defense is atrocious. He plays no defense at all. Like I said, the shooting comes and goes. He barely played since he came in Washington, so you really don't know what the fit is there. And I do think that they could be rushing a rebuild when patience could be the best play for them in the long term. So you're getting Trey Young to be a veteran engine here. It makes some sense. But I think that ultimately, if they want to flip him later, you locked him into a 4-year, $212 million deal. So you could flip him later, and that could be the benefit of it. But paying $53 million for Trey Young while you're in the start of a rebuild does seem like a lot to pay for a player that his last team just got off him because he didn't fit with the young players. You got Trey Johnson coming here. You could have AJ. You got Trey Johnson already here. You got AJ DeBonsa or Darren Peterson coming in. I don't know what Washington's doing here. This never really seemed like a good deal to me for it, but I just don't believe in Trey Young. Overall, for me, it just comes down to my non-belief in Trey Young as a player. But hey, at the end of the day, this is what the route that the Washington Wizards have decided to go in. I guess we'll see if this ends up being the right question and decision for them. But I want to hear from you guys on it. How do you feel about all these moves that we talked about? This is the beginning of trade season around the NBA, and it's not going to stop anytime soon because we are just at the start of this, and it's probably going to get crazier before it gets lighter, and that's just the reality of how the offseason goes. Today is draft day. It's probably going to be a very crazy draft day for around the NBA, so make sure you guys stay in tune with us there. Let's see what happens. Man, but make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel as well, hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode or an upload. You can follow us at NBA Central Pod, and we'll probably change that to the Full Court Podcast. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Pod at NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and or voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773 270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything basketball related, and I'll see you guys the next time I feel like making a video. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
Been a presentation of the Breaks Media.